Hey, this is Sebastian, socialanxietysolutions.com. I'm a former social anxiety disorder sufferer, and I speak about social anxiety a whole lot. And that is because I managed to overcome it myself, and I've been coaching people with social anxiety for a long time. And problem that a lot of people report is the fear of awkwardness. And I thought I'd share a couple of things with you about that because I think that's going to help you. All right. So, first of all, here's a misconception. People that experience a lot of anxiety in social situations, they think often that they are the cause of the awkwardness. And they often say things like, oh my God, I got so anxious, I made that other person awkward. Well, that's not true. I mean, at first sight, that's how it appears. But when you look at it, with one person, you experience anxiety and the other person becomes awkward. And another person, you experience anxiety and the other person does not get awkward. So you experience the same kind of anxiety and Joe gets awkward about it and James is fine with it. So what does that tell you? That tells you that this guy has some issues himself. It's his reactions to your anxiety that are the problem. And so you shouldn't take responsibility for other people's awkwardness. That's one. Secondly, you might be listening to this on the podcast, but I have a podcast and I used to interview a lot of people, and I'm going to get back into that very soon. But I interviewed a couple of my socially at ease friends, and one of the questions that I asked them was like, "Hey, a lot of my clients have problems with awkwardness. What's your how do you deal with it? Does it come up for you? Do you deal with it a lot? How do you handle it?" And and their reaction, I'm thinking about two people in particular, Gina and Eric. And they both had pretty much the same reply. They're like, yeah, of course we deal with awkwardness. It's part of life. It's normal to experience awkward situations. And how do I deal with it? Well, I don't know. I mean, we share an awkward moment and it passes and that's it. Or maybe I try to change the topic, or sometimes I even bring it up. Okay, this is getting awkward, or whatever. In other words, awkwardness is normal. It's fine. There's no issue with it. It's just your reaction to the awkwardness that is the problem. And so when you assume that it's you that is the problem, that is causing the awkwardness, that's going to make the awkwardness last longer. You're going to be upset about it. It's going to trigger your anxiety. So that's not helpful. Secondly, if you think that awkwardness is not normal and it's uncommon and it doesn't happen for quote unquote normal people, no such thing as normal people, but that's a different story. And you're also not an anxious person. You just happen to have had anxiety for a long time in many situations, but you're not an anxious person. Also a different story. But it's a misconception to think that awkwardness doesn't happen for other people. I'll tell you a story and make a lot of noise. All right, maybe 4 months ago. 5 months ago, I've been out dancing. I drive home. I go to this other place where there's still some salsa playing, and there are a couple of friends of mine, and there's also this guy from soccer that I used to play soccer with, and let's just say that on the pitch when I play football, that's where I still need to do quite a bit of healing. Because if I am not winning, I'm a very competitive player, and this is something I'm very good at. And if I have someone in my team that's not that great of a player, I sometimes kind of tend to slip a little bit, and I try to keep it to myself, but sometimes it slips, and I get really annoyed. And it's difficult to hide for me. Not great, I'm not proud of it, I'm not happy about it, but I'm doing my work to try to work on it. Anyway, so needless to say, at soccer, that's where I make the least friends, And so I'm in this I arrive in this place where there is dancing, and here I see this guy that I have the most trouble with at soccer. You know, let's just say I like him the least, or another way to say it is like he likes me the least. And you know, we've had some beef back and forth during soccer, and so now I meet him in a social gathering at the bar, where there are a couple other friends around, and he's there with this girl, and I come walking in, and the first guy I see is him, and he's like, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" And he's like very high energy, and I'm like, whoa, that's a very different kind of energy that I'm used to between the two of us on the soccer pitch. And now it's all of a sudden, yo, hey, how's it going, man? Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Like we're very buddy. And it was kind of awkward. You know, it was an awkward situation. Anyway, we dealt with the awkward situation. I knew it wasn't mine. It was a shared awkward experience. It was awkward for him. It was awkward for me. Probably it was awkward a bit for the girl as well, as you could tune into it. It's fine, you know? And then moved on from that, and that was the end of it. Another example is there are two of my friends, and this is also in a dance place, and I walk over, and we talk a little bit, we joke around, and one of them says, "Hi, we're trying to avoid that guy," and they're pointing over to this guy over there. I'm like, "Oh, I know him." And they're like, "Yeah, we know him too." I'm like, "Oh yeah, it's this guy." I'll leave his name out. I don't know him very well, but yeah, I spoke with him once. He was invited to my neighbor's party where I was as well. I kind of vaguely know him. And they're like, "Yeah, well, Kathy, is very good friends with his ex-girlfriend, and they've recently broken up, and so Kathy doesn't want to run into him because it's going to create an awkward scenario. It's going to be an awkward situation." Now, these two of my friends, they're not quote-unquote socially anxious, but still, they don't really want to deal with that awkward situation. Right? That's common, that's normal. Other people have that too. It's just exaggerated when you're dealing with anxiety issues. So I just want to point that out. Okay, I hope these stories help pointing that out a little bit. Awkward situations are normal, and what your path to freedom is becoming okay with awkward situations. So awkwardness shows up, it's okay. You can handle it. You can ride the wave of the awkwardness. Now that comes from actually being comfortable with yourself, and it also comes from not labeling awkwardness as something really bad and as something very unique and something that you cause, because those are, let's just say, irrational thoughts or irrational beliefs. Those are the things that make it worse. So I talk about in order to overcome your social anxiety most effectively, you want to merge Western traditional psychology with Eastern energy psychology. Western traditional psychology has some good facts. Changing your thoughts is helpful in some scenarios, but mostly it's missing a key component, and that's addressing the emotional side of the problem, releasing the traumatic and the old archaic emotions that are causing or contributing to your brain perceiving threats. And that's where tapping and energy psychology and other techniques come in. But we need the best of both worlds, and you need some proper logic. You need to have the right kind of thinking. And so I hope that this video helps you with this thinking about awkwardness. So welcome it, love it, enjoy it, have a good time with it. And next week I'll do a little tap along on the fear of awkwardness. Now, what is a tap along? A tap along is where I use a particular technique to release negative emotions or to reduce negative emotions attached to the idea of awkwardness, so that your fear of awkwardness starts to reduce and it becomes less of a problem for you. All right? So if you want to experience that, tune in next week. Okay? I'll do that next week. We'll be using a technique called EFT, emotional freedom techniques, or tapping, and it's gonna be a good time. So to make sure that you're subscribed to that, subscribe to this video if you're not already. Hit the bell so I don't end up in your gazillion subscriptions. You actually get a notification, and I'll connect with you soon. Bye for now.